All right, TiTFest is back. We are so glad that you are putting up with our bullshit and nonsense today. And thank you for hanging out with us and learning a lot of cool stuff about liberty and cool things that you can do to grow sea steady. We've talked about it a lot today. My brain hurts. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. So because we've talked about so many serious things, we thought we would try to make it a little more funny now. So Scott has been hosting for most of the weekend. And you may not know this, but Scott is a comedian here in Omaha. And we decided that we would also bring on Caleb Salvatore, who is a stand-up comedian here in Omaha as well. Caleb, how's it going?
It's good. You guys have spent this weekend doing, hard work, hosting all this shit, producing. I know you, Zach. I've pretty much spent it just high out of my mind. So,
yeah. I feel like I'm the only person that can't figure out how to do all of this while not being sober. Because I'm over here. I just want to stop feeling so strange.
Get yourself a little drinky poo, Zach. Get a little drinky poo, and I'll take care of you.
Jesus Christ, man.
Hey, I gotta sneak the drinks around here somehow.
Sneak.
Yeah.
You're like the fucking element. Oh no, you're like the fucking school teacher that goes in the teacher's lounge and takes shots while the kids are at recess and shit.
No, dude, I got a lock on my classroom.
Under the desk.
Just shut that door. Keep that locked in the desk. We're good. No, I don't do any of that, for the record.
Titties.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to call our new comedy musical ensemble. We're just going to be the Titties.
The Titties?
Yeah, you're going to be the lead singer. Scott's going to do basically all the music, and I'm just going to stand in the background pretending like I remember how to play bass. But really, it's going to be Scott running everything through his computer.
Right?
Bassists don't get enough love, man.
The real ones don't, that's for sure.
No.
Right.
That's all right, though. Some good ones.
What else
you got like Geddy Lee, you got Flea, you got Peanut, you got all those cats. They get the credit.
Pink Floyd.
Why are you gonna ask a question that you can ask Google?
That's what I'm doing.
Just Google Pink Floyd bassist.
I am.
Oh, okay.
Roger Waters. Yeah, that man's a fucking legend.
That guy.
Oh yeah, I didn't know he was.
No one
heard of him. I thought he was the singer. Oh, he was the singer.
Singer, bassist thing. Oh yeah, he did. Oh fuck, dude. I have tried. So I've done like church music before, and for me, singing and playing is very, very difficult.
Oh, Mark Hoppus, another legendary bassist.
Who's that?
From Blink-182.
Ah,
the singer that's not obsessed with aliens.
That guy. Okay.
Not the where are you? And I'm so sorry. Not that guy. The other one.
Yes, you may come play tambourine.
What about cowbell?
So that's going to be on the drum set, right? That's where I've always seen cowbell.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got that covered.
You know what's funny is I listen to that fucking song now, ever since the Saturday Night Live thing, and I can always hear the cowbell in it. It sticks out like a sore fucking thumb.
Yeah,
you can't not hear it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I never noticed it until I saw that.
Yep. And now you got a fever. Now you got the fever. And the only thing will cure it. Yeah. That's it.
So, hey, when are we going to be able to start going to comedy shows again? Have you guys heard anything?
So we haven't started setting up anything yet. My contacts within the community have not been able to really give us a firm date. Most of them are sticking to the schedules they've set in July at this point, so they haven't officially canceled July dates yet, which is neat.
Do you guys have July dates?
We don't, no. So we didn't have any. So what Caleb and I have been doing, and we finally came together and decided that we were going to merge together. So we've created this Comedy and Chaos group organization where that we
He's the
are
comedy, I'm the chaos.
yeah where we're going to really focus on putting together shows, entertainment shows with comedy, with different talents, those kind of things. So what happened was we came up with this grand idea, and then everything
The world
shut
ended.
down. Yeah. So we were supposed to do a Sky High Fest at Dr. Jack's Drinkery in April. And then we're a month at a time. We like to schedule out a month at a time, and we were going to try and ramp that up. Now we're probably looking at, I haven't confirmed any dates in July, and I'm hesitant to book anything. So Caleb and I, the last time we talked, we were maybe looking at August as making a big comeback. But there's so much in flux still, Zach. It's hard to say what's going on. I know, Caleb, you've been doing the videos. Online, TikToks or whatever you're doing.
Not TikTok, no.
Caleb is the king of TikToks. Have you seen
No.
his stuff? It's amazing.
It's not on TikTok, and I refuse to be a part of that.
No, but no, you're on fire with your videos, man. I love them. I look forward to every installment. I wish I had that kind of comedic value that I could bring to the table. But the reality is, I'm a fast and dirty. Put me in the nightclub, put me on the dark stage, and let me tell jokes to people. So
you're right. It's not the same. It's not the same at all.
No, it's not.
No, I want nothing to do with it. Well, okay. So I should rephrase that. I enjoy making videos, not near as much as I enjoy doing stand-up.
Sure.
Dude, your video work does not get nearly the love it deserves. Your shit is really funny. And when I go there and see like the views that you're getting, it's like you should be at least 10 times higher than that based just on how funny you are at this point in your development.
That's because they don't want to see a black man prosper.
Right. It's the man keeping you down.
Trying to keep me down.
Yeah.
And now we understand why Caleb is constantly blacklisted.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Seriously, though, if that's the worst thing I say in this hour that we're doing this, then we got off easy. So.
Yeah, if you guys ever get a chance to check out Caleb's comedy, man, do it. He will offend you. Just know.
He's even managed to offend me a couple times. There's been a few jokes where you've been like, "Oh, buddy, come on now."
Which one was that? I'm curious.
If I could remember, I would tell you, but I don't remember which one it was.
Dude, that's why I can never have kids, because I made so many retard jokes. I'm gonna get stuck with one.
Karma, dude. Karma.
And I'm not talking he's a little slow. I'm talking you're strapped with the motherfucker for life. Like.
Oh, Caleb.
I don't know, though. Would that be a bad thing for you? Because you have a girlfriend that has seizures, and that's like the backbone of your comedy.
My handicapped son.
That's a lifetime of comedy.
Somehow, right?
That's too much responsibility for me, man. I can't do both.
Oh man, you guys.
This is all implying that if I got her pregnant, I wouldn't just bail and leave her to raise it on her
own. Truth. Dropping truth bombs like they're hot, dude.
I mean, that seems like the responsible thing to do.
That's funny crap.
As far as my finances are concerned.
Did you guys see the links that I was posting earlier about the COVID cases here in Nebraska?
No, I've been busy working, Zach.
I have too, but I can use the internet while I do it. I'm on my phone in one place and watching all the screens on the other. But so they started reopening Omaha a good 2 to 3 weeks ago now. It's been a while. Mm-hmm. And the cases have been cut in half.
It's been a while.
Like,
sorry,
all I heard, especially from that 500 fucking idiots of Omaha group, was how, they're going to reopen everything. There's going to be all these cases and we're all going to fucking die. It's like, yeah, that happened. Great job.
I'll tell you that we're all going to die shit. The wisest words I've ever heard. I was super high one time, like really high. And I asked my friend, I was like, am I going to die? And he looks me in the eye and he goes, yes, eventually. We all are. And that's how people need to look at this. Eventually,
Exactly.
we all are. Unless
Look,
you talk to Zoltan this fun.
we had him on this weekend.
Did you?
Yeah.
He was on my podcast.
Yeah. I always take the opportunity to produce an episode if Zoltan's going to be on it. He's one of my favorites. Get the fuck out of here, Dan.
What?
He just popped up in the lobby. He likes this. He's been
Oh.
set himself up so he can hear what's going on and get guests where they need to go and everything. He's been doing a lot.
Make sure nobody's like destroying his name.
We're not ruining the brand.
Considering some of the people we've had talking so far, I think that ship might have sailed a bit.
Why? I'm curious. Now I'm intrigued.
So here's the deal. Here's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to trash anyone who's come on here publicly.
Right.
Here's what I'm going to say. Dan is the best human being I know, and that includes him finding the good in everybody. And some of the people that he's like, yeah, I talked to so-and-so, they're really cool. I'm like, that motherfucker's an asshole. What are you doing?
Like, as in what way? Like racist or like?
Who are some of the people? Remember when everyone in the Libertarian Party hated Max Abramson before he left, and everyone still hates him, but now no one cares as much about him.
Right.
Dan was like still friends with Max Abramson during all that. He's like, I don't know why everyone's so mean to him on the internet. Like, really? You haven't seen him on the internet?
I've never heard from him. What's his deal? Like, why is he such an asshole?
He is a Republican. He belongs in the Liberty wing of the Republican Party. And a lot of times when he would be pretending to be a libertarian, some of his stances were just dumb, and he was trying to get us to only run candidates against Democrats so that we can't have the Republicans lose, that kind of a thing.
Ah, what a guy!
Yeah, but
is he the one that?
Go ahead.
Isn't he like a felon or something like that too?
No, that's a different candidate. There's a couple of those running for the party.
I was asking. I wasn't stating. Please don't sue me.
Yeah. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Jess.
So we had Jess's podcasting partner was supposed to be the last slot, and her internet is no longer able to connect to StreamYard. She was talking shit about Monsanto, and suddenly nothing.
Seriously?
She can't get back on StreamYard. So Dan and I were hypothesizing that maybe Monsanto pulled the plug on that one.
Fuck.
So if we go off, you know the fuck why it happened.
Could be. Can we talk about Bill Gates?
What do you want to talk about, Bill Gates?
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We stick our needle in the third world's ass and watch what happens.
I mean, if you could, wouldn't you?
Bill Gates is what would happen when the Tuskegee experiment goes into the private sector.
Like, I know there's the anti-vax nut jobs and shit out there, but there really is like reason to fucking hate Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Like, Bill Gates is being sued in Africa, somewhere in Africa and India.
Okay, but those aren't real countries.
And you said I was going to get us kicked off.
No, I'm just letting loose now.
Bill Gates.
Zach is getting loopy.
There's a lot. Okay, here, I'll beat you at that. There's a lot of dead African kids and Indian kids because of Bill Gates, and that's why Tom Woods is such a fan of him. You like that?
I would like to state for the record, I think all the charges of Tom Woods being a racist are a little overblown, but that was still funny.
But it's comedy, right? That's comedy.
Remember,
gold.
That's the great thing about being a comedian is no matter what, I just say I'm playing a character and nothing can happen to me.
Right? You're immune. It's an immunity card. You would think, right? But
this is an act.
I mean, if that one dude can get away with jerking off next to people, then why can't you make
Louis C.K.? Louis C.K. asked permission The fact that they said yes is a them problem. Now, was he using his star power to do that? Sure. So it's kind of scummy. He got what he deserves. He has to play clubs instead of arenas now. People need to lay off.
Yeah, for now, I hear he's gaining a popularity back pretty quick in the comedy community.
Oh,
because the social justice warriors don't fucking go to comedy shows.
No, I saw his most recent thing. He is hilarious. Oh yeah, he was in Omaha right before we shut down.
Yeah, he's always been funny. Like, I don't like his politics, but he's fucking funny.
Oh, I didn't know he had politics, honestly. I
mean, basic left-wing politics. They're probably not even his politics. He just parrots everything that he hears and goes on with his life.
That's a weird thing that I figured out as soon as I got into comedy was how many comedians are super hard left. Super hard. Like, escape the helicopter commie hard left. That was a surprise to me.
They are. It makes sense that, you look at Hollywood and you look at the entertainment industry. It's dominated by lefts, by liberals, and which is interesting because being a libertarian comedian, we kind of feel like we should be able to do and say what we want as long as we're not physically causing harm to somebody, right? It's just comedy.
Real quick, I made a mistake. We are live on all the taxation and stuff pages, but I accidentally, because I'm tired, went live on our pages too. So people are like, "How was TiTFest?" Well, this is still TiTFest. We're live on D&D as well.
You threw us everywhere.
Fucking do it! Come on.
Comedy takeover.
It's TiTFest. I flashed the camera.
Yeah. That's right. No, but being a libertarian in a highly dominant liberal culture has been a challenge for jokes and whatnot. I have not offended anybody enough to make them walk out of the room.
I do.
I know.
My favorite, the only thing I enjoy, and I'll let you finish in a second. The only thing I enjoy more than, because I'm going to lose this thought if I don't get it out right now. The only thing I enjoy more than making someone get up and storm out of the room during my set is when they're surrounded by other people. They clearly hate me, but have to sit there and watch the rest of it. That's the best
and they're
feeling.
Clearly uncomfortable.
Extremely. I remember I had a joke about the racial Olympics, and I'm making fun of everybody. White people, of course, win shooting because how good we are at shooting up schools, yada yada yada. And I was like, and black people, they take gold, and of course basketball and dating morbidly obese white women. And this fat white chick in the front row was just she wouldn't even look at me the rest of my set.
I remember that one because I was sitting behind her and I was like, oh shit, that's going to be the one that gets pissed. And I was right.
Which was I don't know what she was mad about because her black boyfriend laughed his fucking ass off. So,
yep.
Anyway, Scott, continue. There's my
that was my thought. I kind of wanted to get your perspective on it, man. It's interesting. You brought it up. I was going to bring that up. So you and I are both experiencing the same thing. I think about some of the other libertarian-leaning comedians that we know, and
they're
probably feeling the there are, aren't there?
I won't name drop anyone, but I've had, I'll say 4 or 5 prominent comedians in this scene reach out to me and thank me for not being such a pussy like everyone else has been about this whole COVID thing. That's their words, not mine. Thank you for not being such a pussy. So there's a few of us.
Yeah.
There.
So how was the rest of TiTFest besides this? It's been great. Like I said, I could pick on a couple people who were presenting that Dan has a better opinion of them than I do, but for the most part, we've learned a lot of great information. We've gained a lot of experience on how to do an online convention with all the hiccups and shit that we've had to deal with. And we're really, really excited to be able to do this, hopefully in person next year. Like, that's our goal.
And unlike the Libertarian Party, our online convention didn't drive off Justin Amash.
I mean, allegedly, we were live when he left.
Yeah.
True. This motherfucking TiTFest, I'm done. Fuck these people.
That's it. That's the final straw.
You're welcome, radicals. We chased off the Prague savior.
No, I had nothing to do with that, dude. And I have my own theories and own philosophies. There's a lot of stuff going around. A lot of stuff
it's because.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, Caleb, you'll lose the thought if you don't share it.
I will. It's because I've been thinking about this for a couple days. It's because he knows there's no reasonable path to victory for a third party in this election, especially a candidate that jumped into the race 5 months before the election, before election day. You can't. I mean, this. If you're going to be a successful third party, unless you're a billionaire like Ross Perot was, you have to get out and pound the pavement. You got to have volunteers banging on doors for you. I mean, Gary Johnson had a pretty solid movement back in 2016, and he didn't even get 5% of the vote. So it's like you got to have groundwork. You got to be out there kissing hands and shaking babies, and he can't do that when everything's online. You can't run a campaign off social media. They're going to pick between one of the.
Even the social media advocate would say you can't do that.
No, I mean it's becoming a bigger part, but you still got to people are still going to gravitate toward the rapists with dementia. So that's my thing. Go ahead, Scott.
I mean it's just been a shit show. I mean, for lack of a better term, this whole thing has been a complete debacle. If they were going to do an online convention, they should have just pulled the trigger on it and made that decision early. But what happened is we dragged our feet, and I get it, people. I get the concept of going for a full convention. And in reality, we could have, should have, would have just agreed to postpone from May to July and do what we can. We should have just stuck to that original plan and then create a provision that we could default to an online convention come July. But that gives us much more time to figure
problems. Because
we have I know.
Wisconsin would have lost their shit if we would have been going into July.
I know. I don't claim to have all the answers. I don't. But the reality of the situation is you have somebody like Justin Amash that creates an exploratory committee that he wants to run for president, and he gets nothing but shit from the party. And then he watches the complete circus that has been the 2, 3, 4 tests that we've been streaming live on YouTube, where we spend 2 hours arguing about whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich. And then the next one, we spend 2 hours listening to everybody be recognized by a chairman who refuses to start a freaking meeting. And instead, everyone wants to hear themselves speak and talk about how much problem they're having with their own computer. This is a technology thing. You guys, the people running the show don't know what to do. And they don't have the wherewithal to listen to the people that do. And that's the biggest problem we have here. We have an inability to fucking communicate, and communication is a two-way street. It's listening and communicating. There are solutions that are out there, but nobody wants to hear them.
What about a mail-in vote?
So my cousin works cybersecurity for Microsoft, and I don't mean he's like some peon. My cousin has worked for Alphabet Boys and in Congress and all that, doing cybersecurity. He's very well connected. And I asked him, like, is there something we could do here? He's like, yeah, Microsoft solved this already. It's called Defending Liberty. Give me someone who's going to pretend to at least be professional, and I can get this done for you. And I've been reaching out to people, and they're all like, yeah, we tried that already. Nick won't let us do it.
What's Nick's end game?
I don't know. If this was our show, I would speculate. Because it's taxation is TiTFest, I'm not going to.
Based on my observation, and I haven't talked to Nick. I don't know. I stay out of it.
As much dick as possible.
But I see a man that is completely checked out of his role. That's what I see. My perspective is an individual that is completely checked out from his role and probably has been for the last year, has just been completely jaded. And I get that sense from him. I get that perspective that he just doesn't give a fuck. And I don't know if it's because he's got other opportunities on his mind. I don't know if he's got some kind of hidden agenda that he wants to go with. I don't know if he's trying to advance a political career. It's all a hearsay at this point and speculation. But my observation and watching him function in these meetings is a complete lack of vested interest in the success of this party, and a complete lack of vested interest in of any of it anymore. He doesn't want to be part. I just get that sense he just doesn't want to be part of it anymore. So that's what I see.
He's about to make like Tom Brady and go join a lesser organization so he doesn't have so much pressure on him anymore.
That was the comparison I was going to make, actually.
Sorry for Green Party.
I knew it because I was going to beat you to it.
No, well, close. I remember Matt Patricia's defense for the Patriots in the 2017 Super Bowl against the Eagles. I remember because he had already accepted the Detroit Lions job. He was interviewing for fucking coaching jobs throughout the playoffs. I hated that cocksucker for that. And that defense shit the bed. Philadelphia scored every time they touched the fucking ball because of him. Because he didn't even try.
Fucking Eagles take a Super Bowl. Like you had
one. I'm mad about it too. We're never going to hear the end of it.
Right.
40 years from now, these guys are going to be jerking themselves off to pictures of fucking Nick Foles. Like, this is all that city has going for it.
Shitting on Philadelphia is basically my favorite thing to do. Like, think of a worse American city. Maybe Detroit. Possibly Memphis.
Anywhere in the South. Council Bluffs.
Okay, well, Council Bluffs isn't a real place.
True.
It doesn't count.
Talking like cities. Man, there's a lot of really cool cities in the South. Like, as long as you're not trying to drive there, because what I've noticed, in the South, there's no grids.
No,
whoever designed these cities is just like,
it's all circles.
You go that way, that's fine. God,
it's all circles.
Damn, what the fuck are you thinking?
That's how the Twin Cities are too.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess I've been there once, but it was like early in the morning and I was getting ready for a football game. Like I was playing football that day. So
yeah. If you go downtown,
get on my level.
If you go downtown Minneapolis, it's not as bad. It's more of a grid. But anywhere else, like in the suburbs, good fucking luck. I remember every time I love Minneapolis. I wouldn't live there because it gets too cold. But every time I've been there, it's just been me screaming at Google Maps. Like, it's bad.
Yeah, huh? It's like East St. Louis, brother.
East St. Louis.
Driving through St. Louis.
What's that?
I hate driving through St. Louis.
Have you ever driven through East St. Louis?
We went on a youth group trip. I gotta tell this. This is funny. We went on a youth group trip. And the thing was, we were just going to stop in a couple of cities. We were going to see the southeastern part of the country. And then a couple of people were graduating and like the pastor was leaving. It was like a last hurrah for like the core people in our youth group. Right.
Right.
So we get to East St. Louis at like 11:30 at night. And we're getting this motel room in the actual ghetto.
Like in the hood.
Yeah, and one of the girls is like, I'm hungry, and there's a Denny's like a half a mile away. Can we just walk there? And my youth pastor is like, yeah, I'm going to bed. You guys go ahead. And I'm like, I don't want to go because I have a little bit of sense, but I'm like, I can't let the girls go alone because Jesus fuck, they won't come back. Although I was a Christian, like a really good Christian boy at the time, so I wouldn't have said it that way. But
no,
right.
But they're all Christians, right? So Jesus was walking with them.
That's right.
So he was, because we made it back. So the red-headed, freckled boy that was with us is walking with it. You know, back when Nebraska had the black shirt hats and they were like the skull and bones and they were black. Motherfuckers, like, we're walking down the street and he's like turning his hat sideways. Look how gangster I am. Like, oh no, we're going to get shot. I'm never going to see my mother again.
Well, in California, Nebraska, Cornhusker shit, that's like a gang colors. Gangs will identify with Nebraska stuff.
Right.
Which makes sense because in the 90s, most of our defense was actually gang members that they had
gang members from California. Right.
Oh, you mean back when we were winning championships?
We need to get back to that. Why can't we have...
Hey, Tom Osborne said it. You don't win championships with choir boys. We fucked up kicking Maurice Washington off the team.
Yeah, we did.
We need to up these criminal charges. All these guys are just fucking pussy-ass marijuana charges. And
to be fair, that was kind of a pussy-ass charge, too. Like,
no, yeah, exactly. Revenge porn. Like, give me my violent felons back, and we'll start competing for championships in this state again. God damn it. St. Louis as a whole is the one fucking city that I've driven through and been like, wow, I'm really glad I have a gun.
Yeah.
That's. I made a mistake when we went to Tampa. We made the mistake at 3:00 in the morning of stopping at a nice little store called Gas Mart in East St. Louis at 2:30 in the morning. Indian guy behind the counter just screaming at people when they walk in. Take your hood off! Take your hood off! Like, it was bad. Don't go to Gas Mart right outside the airport in East St. Louis.
No, don't do that. I would highly advocate.
St. Louis is where I had the gun because concealed carry is legal in Missouri. Of course, I locked it up and properly transported it across the bridge to Illinois. Exactly.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Yeah. I am a law-abiding citizen.
As we all are.
I think my wife just got home because the dogs are going nuts.
Yeah, my dog's been doing that all day. I got this beagle that doesn't shut up, right? Like I tell the joke in my routine about having a marriage of compromise. When it was time to get a dog, like I wanted a lab, the wife wanted a beagle, so we compromised and we got the beagle, right? And that's a true story. But what I didn't know ahead of time was how flippin' annoyingly obnoxious they are with their barking. I mean, they're a hound dog through and through, right? The beagle never shuts up. She never stops. She hates everybody. She hates everybody that walks in my house. I always make the joke when people walk in and she's just going nuts. I'm like, don't mind her. She just hates white people.
See, dogs can actually be racist, though.
Yeah, they can.
They can. Because my dog, she grew up around white people her whole life. And if she sees somebody with darker skin than her, she gets pissed because it scares her because she's not used to it.
Right.
Yeah. And but the funny part is she's a black lab, so I have to call her Clarence Thomas now.
Or what's that? Candace Owens.
Yeah, that's a better name. She's Candace Owens. There you go.
Oh, Candace.
That's funny.
So I need a rant about Candace.
I got to piss. You guys keep talking. I'll be right back.
All right, do your thing.
So Candace Owens made a website a couple years back. This is before everyone knew her as the Republican black girl. She did a website where you were supposed to be able to report children who were saying mean things to people on the internet, and they would go into a database with identifying information, city, state, town, like what section of the town you're in, with a name, sometimes a picture. All of this was supposed to be on there. And it's and then a bunch of the kind of the anti-feminist YouTubers stopped being anti-feminist for a week and all made videos the fuck is this shit? So then she got roasted for that and disappeared for a year and a half, and then came back talking basically being the token Republican. And it took a couple months, and then someone's finally wait, isn't that the crazy bitch that was trying to dox kids?
Candace Owens?
Yeah.
Who was she working for, doxing kids?
It was her company.
What a fucking winner.
Yeah.
She wasn't working with Hunter Moore, was she?
That name doesn't see
Is anybody up?
What's that?
Hunter Moore, he's the reason revenge porn is illegal.
Really?
Is it? Yeah, he had a website called isanybodyup.com.
Oh.
People would send pictures of their exes there and stuff like that.
I'm gonna kill my camera. You guys talk. I have to eat. I haven't eaten all day.
We'll make this like a mukbang.
Yeah.
You
gotta eat on camera.
Look, man, I'm so paranoid about that after
ASMR, man. Chew into the mic.
I would almost do that as a joke, but I'm pretty sure Mercedes or someone would stab me next time.
At least tell us. I probably would. At least tell us what you're eating.
So Elfie went to Arby's, so I have cheese sticks because those are my favorite, and then I got a couple burgers from Hardee's.
Nice.
Arby's has
Hardee's.
Oh, Hardee's.
No, Hardee's. I forgot there's Hardee's out on the south side. We got Hardee's, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have them out west here. So,
dude, my last experience at a Hardee's was in Council Bluffs, and I just won't eat it anymore because it
trash.
ruined it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't eat it at a Hardee's, man. When I lived in Phoenix, we had Carl Jr.'s.
I heard it's way better.
It's like night and day.
Wuhan.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I sneezed there.
Rona!
Wuhan. That's how you can tell if it's a Rona sneeze if they yell Wuhan after it. That's right. No, I had fucking grilled salmon for dinner tonight just because I'm trying to regulate my bowels.
Yeah, are you going a little healthier?
Healthier, at least for the time being. That's what I figured out, man. Fried food just fucks me up.
Does it?
Yeah, and then Mexican food runs through me like a cheap whore. That's my new saying.
Has that always been the case, or is that recent?
So it's been more extreme lately, but I think it's just like, the last couple months, the more I've dived into comedy, I've just like, when you're hitting 2-3 mics a week, doing 2-3 shows a week on top of that, you don't have time to cook.
No.
So you're going to stop and you're going to eat on the way. Well, what's quick? Shitty food, right?
Trash.
McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, shitty food. So it's like, it's really just kicked me in the dick. Like I had to go, I went to the doctor a couple weeks ago because I had gas pain so bad I thought my appendix was rupturing. Like that's how bad it was.
Wow.
So they took me there. They fucking ran x-rays and ultrasounds on me. Thank God for Rona. I could get all of it done like within the hour. But then they're like, well, then they thought it was my gallbladder. They're like, well, they ran ultrasounds across my liver, my gallbladder, all that shit. They're like, there's nothing. We ran your x-rays. There is nothing. And me being the hypochondriac, I called them like the next day. I'm like, are you sure it's not colon cancer? Are you sure? And they're like, no, they're like for liability reasons, we can't say 100%, but like, yeah, we would have seen it. So they're like, you have a shitty diet. Like you eat like shit. And I'm like, great. So at least like, that's my thing. Like, at least it was just like, I was hoping it was going to be my appendix, right? Like, run me up the $1,000 for the fucking surgery. And then I can go back to eating like shit. But now it's permanent life. Yeah, now it's a life-changing thing. I gotta fucking eat right. God
damn it! All the pressure.
Welcome to pressure.
Welcome to getting old, Caleb.
Oh no, I feel it, man. There's a big difference between 25 and 21, and nobody wants to talk about that. Like I can't drink like I used to. I can't stay up like I used to. I used to be able to throw back shots till 4:00 in the fucking morning, and now it's like if I get drunk, I feel it for the rest of the weekend. Yeah, can't do it anymore. I had my first 2-day hangover a couple weeks ago, and it was horrible.
Dude, wait till you're in your late 40s and wake up with a hangover. Like,
in my late 40s, I'm probably going to be either in Alcoholics Anonymous or dead, knowing my family history. So.
Yeah, the worst part about those hangovers is remembering you didn't drink anything the night before, and you're just I gotta tell jokes every once in a while.
That's what I like to. I like to like come up with that like joke concepts and then say them on podcasts because like I see if I can get people's reactions.
Right.
So it's like I don't know. I got a couple. I'm working. Have you written any new material yet?
No, just the I make reference to the amount of weight that I put on, during, like your freshman year in college, you put on 15 pounds. Well, they call it the COVID-19 because you put on 19 pounds during the quarantine. Yeah.
That's right.
I did that at the beginning of the quarantine. I did the toilet paper hoarder joke. The longest joke I've ever written, like it's a 2-minute joke. And it just kind of like I haven't practiced it. It's still there, and I feel like that it has some longevity to it. So when the clubs do open up again, I can get back out there and tell that joke. I think it's still kind of timeless. Yeah. Because the quarantine has impacted everybody. So
right.
And the fact that people hoarded toilet paper is still funny. And so I think there's some value to being able to talk about being a prepper. A pseudo prepper, right? But doing it all wrong. So, but no, I've been kind of diverted my attention in other directions. I'll be honest, man. Being a teacher during this time has been exhausting.
Chaos,
like I thought I worked hard before quarantine. No, I've never worked so hard, and I'm doing things that I obviously have experience in doing, so I've been able to do that well, which is skip tracing people, trying to get a hold of them, track them down, get them motivated, sell them on the concept of getting into the classroom, even though grades are already posted and the points don't matter at this point.
Right.
A lot of pressure to keep track of my contacts and making sure I'm communicating with people, recruiting people for summer school, all those things, which are not in the scope of teaching.
Right.
But here we are. This is what happened. So
yeah, no, it's I can't wait.
Yeah, I've been making some memes here and there. I've been keeping the memes flowing on at Mr. Z Comedy, selfless.
Shameless
Shameless
self-promotion.
Yeah, at Mr. Z Comedy. Go to Facebook, check it out. You get a one meme a day, the 420 funny. Everyone deserves to laugh at that time of day, right?
Yeah. Dude, I can't there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of creative shit that's about to be born out of this, though.
Yeah.
I've been working with Derek Pavelka and Zach Bravietti. We've been doing this shit called Too Much Mayo. So we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do because we're all white guys. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with it. We don't know if we want to do a podcast, shorts. We might do a ghost hunting thing. We're not sure yet. We might do a combination of all three of those things.
Nice.
But no, it's cool. We're supposedly... I'm in the process of writing a short film. Probably won't be done until next summer. But we're going to work on a comedy film this summer or fall.
Nice.
So we'll see how that's going to go. I've already made my acting debut, but this will be something else. So it'll be really interesting to see. He's back.
No, that'd be cool, man.
Hire me to shoot that, right?
I think Zach shoots the other Zach. He's the film producer.
Fuck you. We're done.
He's got a $2,000 camera, so
by then I probably will too. We're saving up.
Yeah. And don't forget the editing software.
We're doing this summer.
Don't forget the fucking editing software.
Editing software's fun.
Yeah.
I have we're talking about. I don't fucking know who I'm going to hire. I have to finish the script, which means I have to sit down at some point. We're talking for the movie this summer/fall. We'll see. Maybe we might work on writing it tonight. I'm not sure.
There you go.
But, we've been doing bread and circuses still.
Plug the podcast, dude. That's good stuff too.
I do shit on Drunk and Disorderly every now and then.
Yeah.
Once Mike's open back up, it's gonna be harder for me to do that. Oh, it's Dre.
Hey, Dre. I like that when Mikey Wong called you Dr. Dre. That's awesome.
That's funny as fuck.
Caleb, have you been able to tune in? Have you been able to tune into any of the Taxation and Stuff Fest this weekend, or you've been preoccupied with other things?
I have not. Let's see. What did I do this weekend?
Drugs.
Saturday.
Copious amounts of drugs.
Apparently, if I can't remember. We went to... My girlfriend drugged me to TJ Maxx yesterday because they reopened. So
woohoo!
What's a TJ Maxx?
That's really?
You don't know what TJ Maxx is?
No.
It's shit that gets rejected from Target for whatever reason, and they resell it, and it's half off.
Oh.
You can actually get decent shit if you know what you're looking for.
Is it
clothes, household, decorations and shit like that?
Look, I don't shop where the poor people shop, okay? I go to Walmart like a rich person.
Oh, yeah.
Like a baller. Yeah, that's funny.
I'm a dollar millionaire.
I tell you, that's how I know I've grown up into the big boy leagues. Now I shop at Hy-Vee, right? So
same here.
We go to
Baker.
The Hy-Vee's too far away.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, we go to the market to get meat, but
eventually,
shout out to Just Good Meats in Omaha. If you're ever in Omaha, or you want to have fresh quality meat shipped to you, they will do that too. Check out Just Good Meats. Hashtag nobody beats our meat. That's
That's really their slogan?
yes.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
They're close to you. I'm surprised you haven't gone there.
It's actually right next to where I get my tattoos done,
Right.
Surprisingly. Yeah. Because there's the American Tattoo, which is not where I go, but there's a strip mall behind that one where American's at, and that's where my guy's at. And I remember he texted me the address. I'm like, wait, are you tattooing out of a meat place? I'm not really comfortable with this. I don't know how sterile this is. But no, it was behind. It was in the strip mall next to it. But Hy-Vee, one day I hope to be able to graduate from Hy-Vee to Whole Foods. That day is in the distant future.
Yeah. Good luck.
Whole Foods is expensive as hell.
Yep. You gotta get a nicer car.
I don't.
They don't.
I feel like organic food, like organic fruit, doesn't taste as good. So I'm gonna stay with my poor people food.
Was your genetically altered?
Yeah.
Shout out to Monsanto, our biggest sponsor here.
You did notice that our views dropped when we started talking shit about Monsanto. So,
yeah,
they didn't kick
maybe
us
some
off.
people are just really pro Monsanto.
Yeah, maybe.
There were people in the comments that were like, "What's wrong with GMOs?" And she's like, "Okay, I just want to know if I'm eating them or not, guys. I'm not attacking the idea of a GMO."
Yeah. No, that's, I don't know. There needs to be nuance to it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, same with vaccines and stuff like that. Like, fucking, not smallpox, polio, measles, mumps, stuff like that. I have no problems with those vaccines.
Smallpox should still get a vaccine, I think.
They don't do it anymore.
They don't?
If you were born after it's sometime in the 90s, you do not have a smallpox vaccine. Chicken pox.
Comes next.
I know, right? I have no problem with those vaccines because they have like 50, 60 years of tests, right? You know, obviously polio had its place. It took FDR out, so thank God for that. But I mean, people are like, oh, we got to get this fucking coronavirus vaccine. I'm like, no, you guys shot this shit into a rabbit's ass for 6 months and now you want me to fucking take it? Like, how about you eat my entire ass? Absolutely not. I will not take the vaccine. Absolutely not. So there needs to be nuance. Anything Bill Gates has his name on, just avoid it.
That's all the nuance I need.
Right? Bill Gates. Unless you're Tom Woods.
Oh man, how many bridges did we burn today?
I mean, they were never going to come on our show because once I publicly said that I thought the tactics of the Mises Caucus was bullshit, I think that ship's sailed.
Tom Woods.
Yeah.
Well, Tom Woods wouldn't come on your show because you don't have the fucking NPR vibe to it. So.
Oh, I'm that. So here's the deal, and I would never invite Tom Woods, not because I hate him or never want to talk to him, but I don't want to put someone in a position where they're coming on a show where all the hosts are intoxicated by design. And we're probably going to talk about rough bonded sex at some point. Like, that just.
You don't think Tom Woods is into some freaky shit?
I think Tom Woods could have a conversation with Dre about correct sexual practices.
So what is a correct sexual practice, though?
For them, missionary in the dark for procreation. I love you, Dre. Don't hit me.
I mean,
we don't need to talk about Dre. You be nice.
That's like the one running joke I have about her, though.
Dre.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know, that's just her thing. I don't talk about my sex life, not in a serious manner. I don't give any details about it.
Yeah, I usually keep that to myself. Except for I know you eat pussy like a Council Bluffs resident at a Golden Corral. Is that
Happy hour. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I know that about your sex life.
Yeah. That's not really a kink. That's just a talent.
That's a gift.
That's a gift from God.
That's a gift for the ladies. Yeah.
That's why I never understand the where's the clit jokes. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, men can't find the clit. I'm like, when I'm down there, it's just one big clit. That's how fucking good I am. Like,
Is that like? I feel like the clit thing is a meme at this point, and no one actually struggles with that because it's not difficult. Like,
no. In fact, I can remember in my younger days, if I didn't know where it was, the girl would just move my hand there, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
thanks. Like that's all it took.
Dan is saying that we need to wrap up here and go into the intro for the next guest. I say
Too much talk about clits.
I think we should just bring the next guest up and talk to him about all the stupid shit. I'm just kidding. We wouldn't do that.
Hijack this bitch. Let's do it. I'm all for it.
It's our time now.
That's right.
So it's been real, dudes.
This is basic. Like typically, Drunk and Disorderly is me and Aaron and Dre, but we've been subbing Scott and Caleb in and out in different spots. We're trying to get the whole team kind of out there and find some good vibes and what works well together. And we've just discovered that Caleb doesn't work well with anybody, so we just let him do his videos off to the side.
Basically, yeah. I'm not a team player.
Because Caleb likes to call out people that we're trying not necessarily to piss off on our show as we go off
IDK, man. Sounds like a bunch of BS to me.
And on that note, everyone, thank you very much for the Drunk and Disorderly crew for coming on. And let me get my screen share going here. And thank you guys. And we're all going to drop down and you guys have fun. And we'll be back in like 8 minutes.
Peace out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Taxation is Theft Fest 2020. I'm Dre, your host from Drunk and Disorderly Media, here with our last guest of the fest. So we will be talking with Joe Bannister next, and he is going to tell us how he went from favored Fed to enemy of the state in 11 years flat as a former IRS Criminal Investigation Division Special Agent. So I'm excited to talk to him about that. After that, we will have a panel with Mr. Berman and the rest of the hosts here. He suckered into doing this weekend. And then that will be it. So let's welcome Joe.
Hi, Dre. How are you?
Good, thanks, Joe. How are you?
Good, thanks. I've got my the PowerPoint up on my screen. I'm not sure. Do I share a screen and that'll get everybody to see it, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. That must be showing up now.
It is.
All righty. Great. Well, I call my talk Favored Fed to Enemy of the State in 11 years flat. And the reason I do that is because it was 1993 when I was sworn in as an IRS special agent. And it was 2004, 11 years later, when I was indicted by a federal grand jury on 4 felony tax counts. So an interesting 11-year period that I'm going to try to run through here pretty quickly. This is an old recruiting poster, and the IRS, of course, they're the ones that tout catching Al Capone, and so they're quite proud of that. And of course, you know, he was reputed to be a really, really bad guy, so they couldn't seem to ever catch him with any of his illegal activities, but they could sure catch him with his toys. So financial investigators really do an amazing job at being able to track down criminals. That's kind of what drew me to the employment. I was sworn in November of 1993 in Oakland, California. I was assigned to the San Francisco, California office to begin with. There's my business card. Interestingly enough, I was a certified public accountant when I entered the IRS, and my boss, my manager, was very upset with me for putting CPA on my business card. In fact, the first day on the job, he said, "You're no longer a CPA. You're a special agent now." I guess as if the two could not coexist. So there's a picture of me helping with a Citizens Police Academy in East Palo Alto, California. And the reason this picture, I think, is informational is, of course, it shows part of the interesting aspect of the job. I did a lot of money laundering investigations and worked with the DEA and the Secret Service and the Customs Service and also local police departments, including the East Palo Alto Police Department. And we did a Citizen Police Academy here. And so the local media at the time had covered the event. So you can see I had a lot less white hair then. So I come from a family of terrorists. You could see that on the far left, hopefully it's showing that way on your screen, in the tan uniform. That's my brother, John. He recently retired as a lieutenant from the California Highway Patrol. The next to him in the dark police uniform is our baby brother, Jeff. He's still a police officer with the San Jose, California Police Department. My mom, Ann, in the middle. My dad couldn't be pictured because he had passed away earlier that year. My brother, Jim, he is a battalion chief with the Daly City Fire Department. And then there's me with my Treasury gun and badge there on the end in the white shirt and tie. This is my uncle, my brother's deceased father's brother, Gary. He spent 30 years in the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office. And, I point that out basically to show that I didn't come from anti-government, knuckle-dragging mountain dwellers, come from a family of government servants. And in fact, still believe government service can be noble. I'm kind of disappointed in government service as of late, especially with all the talk of deep state and all the evidence that's coming out relating to what went on in the Obama administration. But that's not the topic of my talk. So anyway, I spent many years in the private sector from 1986 when I graduated from San Jose State University. Spent a number of years in the private sector and just looked ahead and thought there is no way that I can, with this accounting degree and a certified public accountant, that I can be, your phone book CPA for 30 or 40 years of a career. I need something to spice up my career a little bit more. So I decided to pursue employment with either the FBI or the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, and actually moved quite rapidly through an FBI application process. But unfortunately, they had a hiring freeze. This is back in the 90s when Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House. And as happens from time to time, there was a hiring freeze. And so even though I had passed through all of the FBI testing, physical testing, psychological testing, was basically waiting for an appointment letter to Quantico, Virginia, they had a hiring freeze, which lasted, I think, a couple of years as far as the FBI was concerned. Meanwhile, I had also applied to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division because they also looked for people with accounting degrees, really like CPAs if they could find them. So the IRS was also looking for people, and I had applied there. And so it turned out that even though my heart was with becoming an FBI agent, and I hope you'll excuse me, this is back in the early 90s when they still enjoyed somewhat of a better reputation than they do today. I do shiver to think that had I been in there, I'd probably be up there with all those crazy people in headquarters under Comey undertaking all these shenanigans. So it probably worked out for the best. Anyway, I was hired in November of 1993 as an IRS special agent. San Francisco office was my first post of duty, or POD as they call it. And so just briefly going through my 5.5-year career there, rose to the highest level of non-management grade before my 5th year anniversary. Received the Superior Performance Award and Sustained Superior Performance Award. Received the Top Athlete Award. I was the Asset Forfeiture Coordinator for the Central California District, Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force Coordinator for the Central California District, and also a Firearms and Defensive Tactics Coordinator. So you might think that that looks like a pretty rewarding career for an IRS special agent, but you might want to think again. So what happened was I was working at the job 1993, 1994, 1995. Then in 1996, about 3 years into my career there, I was listening to a talk radio show in the San Francisco Bay Area. The radio station's still around. It's KSFO in San Francisco, and they broadcast to most of the San Francisco Bay Area. And there was a woman on the show named Devy Kidd, her kind of an unusual first name, Devvy, and Kidd, Kidd. She's still around and being very active, rooting out corruption. But Devy Kidd was on this talk show hosted by a guy named Jeff Metcalf. And he had her on the show, and she was talking about the federal income tax and basically saying that the income tax was voluntary. And, here I was, as you saw with the picture, I carry a gun and a badge around, bulletproof vest in the trunk and handcuffs. And, I thought to myself, lady, this income tax ain't voluntary. I can assure you of that. So, but anyway, I was a little bit intrigued because she was on this show hosted by Jeff Metcalf, and he was, had always been a very truthful, a very pro-Constitution kind of a guy. And I was mindful of my oath that I took to support and defend the Constitution. So I liked listening to him. But then there was this disconnect because he had Devy Kidd on his show, saying that the income tax, wasn't mandatory for the vast majority of Americans. And she said a bunch of other interesting, to say the least, allegations too. Talked about the Federal Reserve, New World Order, one world government, those kinds of things. And, remember, we're talking about December of 1986. I'm sorry, December of 1996. I don't want to pull a Joe Biden on you. And, back then, it was like, whoa, only weird people talk about this kind of stuff. But anyway, she was talking about it on a mainstream radio station, the income tax being voluntary, Federal Reserve, New World Order, that kind of thing. So because of that disconnect, because of had some trust built in the talk show host, Jeff Metcalf, and yet having this, kooky kind of lady coming on with some kooky ideas, I decided to investigate further into her allegations about the income tax. I ordered some booklets that she had, for order, like $1 a piece, so she certainly wasn't making any money off the deal. And that started about a 2-year investigation throughout 1997 and 1998 and the beginning of 1999, me looking into these claims about the income tax. And, if I had any bias at all, I would have to say it was against this DV Kids allegations. I mean, my whole professional life was wrapped up around the income tax. So, she couldn't possibly be right, but I still kept looking because I thought, well, how could I have trusted this Jeff Metcalf to be an honorable talk show host? If I'm this great investigator, I've got to get to the bottom of this. So I spent 2 years off duty, after work, weekends, days off, whatever it took to look into these issues while still going to work every day as an IRS criminal investigator. And after that 2-year period, I basically came to at least a preliminary conclusion that there was something to these allegations. In other words, I came across a great deal of facts and evidence indicating that indeed the IRS was deceiving the American people about what their income tax obligations were and are. And the deceit is mainly because even certified public accountants, even tax attorneys don't take on the entire Internal Revenue Code. They all have specialties. They're all trained, of course, with textbooks, and rarely will dig into the actual law, the actual regulations, the actual court cases. And so it's just not that many people, even the professionals, that dig deep and take a look. And I didn't create anything. I'm not any special kind of a guru. I just was someone that the IRS trusted to carry a gun and a badge around and investigate violations of federal tax law. So they certainly considered me to have a certain level of competence. And so I began to poke around and see if these allegations of the income tax were true or not true. And I intended to basically speak up about who was telling the truth and who was lying, no matter what the result of my poking around might do. Of course, at that time, I thought, well, I'm sure this DV Kid lady couldn't be telling the truth, because that would mean that I'm not in the right profession, that I'm basically helping the agency to lie to people and steal from them. And I certainly don't think that could be the case. So I embarked on this investigation off duty throughout 1997, 1998, and early 1999. And I came to the end, as I say, about December of 1998, January 1999, and realized I really had exhaustively looked into the issue and found a lot of very, disheartening evidence to show that the IRS was lying to the public. So I decided to approach my supervisors at the IRS and explain my concerns, show them my research, and basically seek out their guidance so that if I was wrong, they could show me where I went wrong. and I'd be happy to report to as many people as they wanted that I was wrong, and I embarked down this road. I believe these tax protesters, and I'm sorry, I blew it. Here's why. Well, they didn't do that. They wouldn't answer any of my questions, and they decided that I should resign, that I should not be, I didn't deserve any answers to my questions. So in approaching my supervisors at the IRS, I wrote a report, and it's actually, sorry, back here, this is a scan of the cover page, Investigating the Federal Income Tax, a preliminary report. And it was about 95 pages. And I handed it to my supervisors along with expressing verbally my concerns about, what I had uncovered over those last couple of years. And inside the report was 3 allegations. Due to the constitutional limitations, most Americans are not required to file income tax returns and pay income tax. 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was never legally ratified, and the U.S. government finances its operations from the unconstitutional creation of fiat money, not with revenue from income taxes. I provided a kind of a transmittal letter to go along with my report, and to when I was expressing my concerns orally to my supervisors. And the long and short of the letter, of course, was that if the Internal Revenue Service declines to conduct its own analysis or dismisses the evidence in this report without proper review, then I must tender my resignation. My oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States was made to God, and I cannot serve 2 masters. Well, the response I got was pretty rapid, and it was not very helpful. The chief of the Criminal Investigation Division, now they're called Special Agents in Charge, like all the other federal law enforcement agencies. But they told me that the Internal Revenue Service will not be responding to your request and will provide you with the necessary paperwork to tender your resignation. So even though they had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on training me, even though, as I said, I was an award-winning special agent, everybody was saying, "Hey, Joe, when are you going to get into management?" All of a sudden, when I started asking questions about the legitimacy of the administration and enforcement of the income tax, all of a sudden I was a really bad guy, and I needed to hit the road and hit the door as quickly as possible. So I was sent home for a week of administrative leave, and realized that, if I were to go back to the IRS, I really didn't trust that they might not try to destroy my otherwise good reputation. So I decided that it might be best to actually resign. I knew that I could speak more freely. And so I went ahead and tendered my resignation. Interestingly, the date, that was my birthday in 1999. And that was also the date in 1913 when the 16th Amendment was proclaimed to be ratified. And that basically ushered in what we all know today as the contemporary income tax. So certainly a date I won't soon forget. By the way, these letters are on my website, agentfortruth.com. The letter was addressed to Commissioner Rosati, who was the commissioner at the time. And again, long and short of a very long 4-page letter, based on the obvious futility of continuing to work for an agency that has standards and practices so different from what it professes, and standards and practices so contrary to my own, I'm officially resigning from the position of IRS Criminal Investigation Division Special Agent, effective as of the date of this letter. Well, after I resigned in February of '99, and again, everybody has to put on their go back in their memories. Certainly, people like me, I'm 57. There was a time when there wasn't any internet, and we still had more, media organs that were not tied into the internet. But that's still where a lot of information spread quite rapidly. And so I ended up being featured on media organs such as C-SPAN, MSNBC, CNBC, 60 Minutes, and the New York Times. And there was also a group called the We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education. And there were several full-page ads that this foundation took out in the USA Today, and one of them featured a couple of other IRS agents that I ended up meeting and becoming very good friends with, Sherry Jackson and John Turner. And so, needless to say, that all this publicity was not well liked by the Internal Revenue Service. It kind of had the feeling of, the OK Corral, where it's like, hey, Wyatt Earp and all these guys are, to the crooks, say, hey, this town ain't big enough for the both of us, and so somebody's got to leave because somebody's right and somebody's wrong. Somebody's on the right track, somebody's not. Somebody's deceiving and somebody is not. So the long and short of all this publicity was that it caused the IRS to get very upset with those of us who were trying to really get answers to our questions about the evidence that we had encountered. And so we even tried, this is just prior, notice the date, the 20th of July, 2001. This is just prior to the 9/11 tragedy in September of 2001. And we got this close to having congressional styled hearings about the impact of the Internal Revenue Service and the way that it administered and enforced the Internal Revenue Code, and also how the Department of Justice prosecuted, tax cases. And so we actually had Roscoe Bartlett, who was a representative from Maryland, put down in writing that a representative of the Department of Justice, a Mr. Bryant, would actually participate or bring officials from the Department of Justice to participate in a congressional-styled briefing, a hearing that would occur where we could air out these grievances and try to get to the bottom of this, the income tax. And, hey, we came across this evidence. It looks to us like the IRS is deceiving the public. You and the Congress are the ones that write the laws. You're the ones we're coming to help us investigate it. And to his credit, Roscoe Bartlett was agreeable and trying to help. And this just a blow up of Dan Bryant's actual agreement in writing. Interestingly enough, the IRS representative agreed to participate, but refused to agree in writing. So as I said before, the IRS had just about enough of people asking questions, especially credible people. They can't have that, so then they have to move to silence you, discredit you, and just do whatever they can because they're still the big man on campus, and there can't be more than one. So what happened was in November of 2004, I was indicted on 4 federal counts that would have put me in federal prison for quite a few years. And they claimed, the Department of Justice had got a grand jury convened, and they issued a true bill, an indictment, claiming that I violated 4 different federal violations. 3 of them were that I prepared false federal income tax returns. And the 4th was that I conspired to defraud the United States of America. I was indicted with a client. Basically, the government's claim was that I conspired with the client to do all these terrible things. Now, interestingly, this probably won't come as a surprise to any of the viewers, but the IRS and the Department of Justice have a well-oiled publicity machine. And so they were kicked into high gear that they got this former IRS special agent and CPA who was doing all these bad things, and they basically convicted me in their press release, although at the very end they claimed that I'm innocent till proven guilty. For example, they said the blatant and far-reaching defrauding of honest taxpayers by these two individuals warrants an aggressive federal prosecution. This case should serve as a stark reminder to our citizens that caution should be heeded when approached by those advocating wild theories, like that one does not have to obey the federal tax laws. So they claim that I conspired to defraud the United States, basically conspired with my client as he stopped withholding from his workers' paychecks, and that I conspired with the client to prepare these false amended federal income tax returns. And there was three years involved, so that's why there were 3 counts. And the biggest problem for the IRS and the Department of Justice, having indicted me on these charges, was that, of course, they trained me very well about how to be a financial investigator. And I don't say that to brag. I just say that compared to the average person in the public, I mean, I was caught like a deer in the headlights. I'd never thought they would ever do such a thing to me. But at least I had some training as to how to defend myself. And that training came from the very people that were attacking me. So the funny thing about this picture is that my principal attorney, Jeffrey Dickstein, he was working in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the time. And once I determined that I wanted him to represent me, he said, well, okay, you got to send me all your research. And I said, okay, Jeff. And so I proceeded to send him 18 boxes of research shipped from San Jose, California at the time, and to Wisconsin. Because, of course, a defense attorney, actually any attorney, prosecutor or defense, has to be very familiar with all the documents relating to the case. And so the documents were so voluminous that they were even taller than my attorney. And by the way, another funny thing about that picture is that when Jeffrey Dickstein motioned the judge for more time for us to prepare, he actually attached this photo to his motion to the judge. So I thought that was very clever. Truly, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So in the trial, and again, I have little time here, but of course I'm grateful for the time I've been given. So I have to kind of go through this pretty quickly. The prosecution tried to disqualify one of my defense attorneys. The other attorney, Robert Bernhoft, which I'll just put in a little plug, Bernhoft Law, BERNHOFT, bernhoftlaw.com. Bob is still in practice, and he's even defended people like Wesley Snipes. So you might want to check him out. But anyway, they tried to kick Bob Bernhoft off of my defense team a couple days prior to trial. The government had a 28-year veteran, IRS agent, was basically the government's expert witness. And the guy couldn't point out a single false entry on the tax returns I prepared that the government claimed I had prepared falsely. And of course, if those that are familiar with court procedure, you have direct testimony where the side that has the witness will call the witness. Then you have cross-examination where the other side gets to question the witness. And he couldn't point out anything false under the direct testimony given by the prosecutor or under the cross-examination coming from my defense attorney. And when you think that they're claiming that I prepared these false tax returns, you'd think they could find at least one thing false on one page, one line of one page somewhere, but they couldn't find a single thing. Witness after witness testified that they observed no conspiracy. So remember, I was charged with conspiracy, yet witness after witness, the prosecution paraded into the courtroom. And when asked directly, did you see a conspiracy going on? Did you see anything that looked like a conspiracy? They all had to answer no. And of course, even the prosecution couldn't bring forward any documentary evidence that there was a conspiracy. So here I was charged with conspiracy, and the government couldn't bring any evidence or witnesses forward to prove it. The case investigator, another special agent, actually a guy that I used to work with, Sean Breslin, he had to testify that he encountered no evidence that the IRS was impeded, impaired, or obstructed. That's what they claimed I conspired to do, was to impede, impair, or obstruct the IRS. And the agent who ran the investigation said he didn't encounter any evidence that I had done so. And, you know, for investigators or people that are amateur investigators, you know that there's something called the elements of the crime. You need to fulfill the elements of the crime if you're going to go and prosecute somebody. And he couldn't even fulfill the elements of the crime, yet I was indicted and prosecuted. Now, on our side, the defense, we only called one witness, and that was my former supervisor at the IRS. And learning from the jurors later, not a single juror ever voted for conviction during any of the deliberation polling. Anyone that served on a jury or knows how that works, you deliberate, and if you decide you're going to kind of poll your jury to find out where people stand, but nobody ever, voted for conviction even during the preliminary votes. And one of the two prosecutors didn't even show up for the verdict when the verdict was read. And the verdict was not guilty on all 4 counts. And that was back on June 23rd, 2005, almost 15 years ago. So I think another thing, I just have a feeling that the viewers are not going to be surprised at. There was one thing that really just warmed my heart, and that was the media response to my acquittal. Because you know how the media is so truthful. This was the headline after my acquittal. The verdict was cheered by tax evaders. And they definitely had to point out that the accountant, me, acquitted, but still faces loss of his license. So, they're just telling people, this guy's still, going over the cliff. So the media is just, you can always depend on the media to try to lead people in a particular direction, influence them. So the bottom line is the federal government, in my opinion and all my research, deceiving the American public about their income tax obligations. It results in trillions of dollars of tax that is paid through deceit, intimidation, and where necessary, illegal force. Hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars worth of property are taken illegally. And this is more of a recent development that I learned. Again, the viewers are probably familiar with some of the players in this whole operation to remove Trump and spy on Trump and go through all this. There's a particular character who actually was in the top of the Department of Justice tax prosecution hierarchy when I was indicted. And so he would have had to, have I seen his signature on a document? No, but he was sitting in the top chair and would have had to approve of all of the prosecutorial harassment that I was subjected to. And so maybe you won't be surprised when you learn his identity. It was actually Rod Rosenstein. Before he had got into his current position, he was actually running tax prosecutions, or at least being the highest ranking Department of Justice official to make sure that people like me could not speak and try to show the truth to our fellow Americans. So just briefly, some of the things that I've kind of come to conclude over the last 20 years. That the average working American is not liable to pay the federal income tax because no bill, no legislation was ever passed into law that made the average American liable to pay the federal income tax. And that's an important, really important legal point. You don't have to be an attorney to understand that. The law clearly states that only Americans who are liable for the income tax are required to keep records and file tax returns. So you might ask, does the IRS agree with what I just said? Do you have to be liable for a tax before being required to file a tax return? Why don't we look at the 1040 instructions? And you can look at any year you want. I have 2012 here just because I've been making this point for a few years. But you can look at any instruction booklet, take your pick. Go to the Disclosure, Privacy Act, and Paperwork Reduction Act notice and read the wording for yourself. Generally, it's going to be down in the third paragraph. Our legal right to ask for information is Internal Revenue Code Section 6001, 6011, and 6012A and their regulations. They say, meaning these sections and their regulations, say that you must file a return or statement with us for any tax you are liable for. Your response is mandatory under these sections. There's also ample evidence that the 16th Amendment was fraudulently ratified, but there's been all kinds of litigation. The man who gathered all the proof of the fraudulent ratification was actually accused of lying about his ratification documents, and then when he tried to enter his ratification documents into court evidence, the court refused to let him put in the evidence, and yet they called him a liar. But that's really another whole story. But we'll just set aside that the 16th Amendment was fraudulently ratified. We'll say, okay, it was ratified. What does the United States Supreme Court say about the 16th Amendment's power? Or shall we say the federal government's power to tax after the 16th Amendment came into existence? In the Bruchaber case, the Supreme Court said the provisions of the 16th Amendment conferred no new power of taxation. In the Peck and Co. versus Lowe, the 16th Amendment does not extend the taxing power to new or accepted subjects. In the Eisner versus McComber case, as repeatedly held, the 16th Amendment did not extend the taxing power to new subjects. Also, most Americans, certainly the ones that just work for a living, they don't have income as that term is defined over and over again by the United States Supreme Court. In the Stratton's Independence case, the gains derived from capital, from labor, or from both combined. That's what income is, gains. In the Eisner versus McComber case, a gain, a profit, something of exchangeable value, proceeding from the property, severed from the capital, being derived, that is, received or drawn by the recipient for his separate use. And the reason that I have a picture of an apple tree here is to illustrate what they're talking about. If you pick the apple from the apple tree, that's the same, what they're trying to say, you're picking the fruit or the gain from the apple tree. You're not hacking a branch off to get the apple. You're not hacking at the trunk and toppling the entire tree to get the apple. You're pulling off the apple. And then next year, next season, more apples will grow. You can pull all the apples off of this. You can pull all the income off of this tree, so to speak. And then next year, the tree will produce new apples or new income. So that's what they mean when they say derived from severed from the capital. The capital is the tree, and the apples that can be pulled off the tree are the income. So you might ask yourself, how could the contemporary federal income tax system that's over 100 years old be in existence, yet there's no law making the average American liable to pay the tax? And you might wonder, was it a mistake? Was it oversight? Was it a loophole? I'd just like you to remember those Supreme Court cases that I showed you. Brushaber, no new power of taxation. And what happened in a nutshell is that the people that wanted the 16th Amendment to be added to the Constitution expected that 16th Amendment would give them carte blanche taxing power to tax all Americans. And in fact, the first Income Tax Act of 1913 did exactly that. But then the 1913 Act was repealed by the 1916 Act. And all of a sudden, the average American was not covered by the 1916 Act, nor any act after that. And that's basically what I'm just saying in this slide. That, but the 1913 Act, being as broad as it was litigated, and the case went up to the United States Supreme Court. And you remember that I talked about this Brushaber case in 1916. It was that Brushaber case that caused the Congress to go, whoa, I guess we thought that the 16th Amendment would give us this carte blanche power, but the Supreme Court isn't playing along. They're saying in the Brushaber case that we don't have that kind of power to tax. And so we're going to retract or scale back the income tax laws to only apply to non-resident aliens and foreign corporations. But, we're talking about 1916. They didn't have internet. They didn't have TV. I don't think they even had radio, at least not widespread. And so these are all things that you find in the bowels of the archives, but it's not something that was widely known. So here the IRS has never had the authority in the law to tax the average American, yet they've extracted trillions of dollars from the American people. And I thought I'd show you just for good measure, again, because I'm just a former IRS special agent. You don't have to believe me, but let's look at what the IRS's own internal literature said, see if it confirms what I'm talking about. So I apologize. This probably isn't very easy to see, so I'm going to have to try to describe it. But basically, this entire document is the IRS Organizational Chart from the late 80s, okay? And it shows the commissioner here, and then it shows a deputy commissioner. And then along this lineup here, all these other arrows are various assistant commissioners. So that probably would make sense to you, assistant commissioners. And there's an assistant commissioner for criminal investigation, assistant commissioner examination, assistant commissioner collection, assistant commissioner international. So you'd think if I was a criminal investigator, that I would work under the criminal investigation division, wouldn't you? But it turns out that I didn't. And I may have to kind of go quickly through this. But you remember in the previous organizational chart, we had the deputy commissioner. Then here are all the assistant commissioners, okay? So we're going to key in on this assistant commissioner international. Notice that he has an office of compliance under him or her, whoever was serving in that role back then. There's the Assistant Commissioner International. So drilling down on the Assistant Commissioner International, notice down here in the Office of Taxpayer Service and Compliance, you have the Criminal Investigation Division. You also have Collection, Examination, and Taxpayer Service. But here's where I worked, Criminal Investigation Division. Now, this is in the Internal Revenue Manual. Back, you can see this is in 1989. And this is what the IRS's own Internal Revenue Manual, its own internal procedure manual, said about the division that I worked in. That the Criminal Investigation Division enforces the criminal statutes applicable to income, estate, gift, employment, and excise tax laws, as well as applicable Title 31 and Title 18 violations per the IRM, that's Internal Revenue Manual, comma, involving United States citizens residing in foreign countries and non-resident aliens subject to federal income tax filing requirements. And then it goes on. But it's telling you right here that it's involving United States citizens residing in foreign countries, not the average Joe, no pun intended, living down the street from you or you yourself. This is the IRS's own internal manual. That's just an expansion of that language. So I wanted to just show you briefly that here is one of the promotions that I got. I think it was actually an award that I got back in June of 1995. Notice, yeah, it was a Special Act Award. Just so you can see right here, Criminal Investigation Division. That's name and location of positions organization. That's where I worked. That's what the document says. Criminal Investigation Division. I'm going to have to just go quickly through this, but the Examination Division, same thing. Responsible for furnishing personnel to provide assistance during the filing period to taxpayers living abroad. The Collection Division, same thing, involving taxpayers outside the United States and those in United States territories, possessions, and in Puerto Rico. So what you have here is you have a hierarchy that existed at the time that I worked there. And I didn't learn this until I was challenged to prove, or I say disprove, evidence that people were giving me that this wasn't the case. And so I thought, well, maybe they've doctored it up on a copy, photocopy machine, or nowadays you call it Photoshop. So I went into the IRS's own library that was in the building that I worked in, and went into their manual and found that what these claims were on the outside from the public was actually true, that this is exactly what the IRS's own internal documentation showed. So needless to say, I was very, very concerned because, as I said at the beginning of my talk, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, and I took that oath very, very seriously. I took it to God, and I'm not about to offend God, least of which doing it by taking an oath and not adhering to it. So this is just a brief thumbnail of the kind of information that I encountered. There's tons more, to be sure. It's been over 20 years since I resigned from the IRS. Obviously, February 25th of last year was the 20-year anniversary of my resignation. So I try to encourage people to educate themselves. I've got a lot of great information at agentfortruth.com. I encourage people to look before you leap. There's no harm in researching this information for yourself. Of course, I don't encourage people to take on the IRS one-on-one. They're still the 800-pound gorilla, and they can squash you like a bug. I encourage educating yourself, educating others, asking other people to look at the information and the evidence for themselves. You don't have to believe me, but I would hope you'd at least check it out. Check out what I claim to be true, and prove it out to yourself. Also, we still do have a jury system, and if it wasn't for thinking jurors who were evaluating my conduct back when I was prosecuted, I might have done some time in Club Fed. But thankfully, there were thinking jurors. And I don't say that just because I was acquitted. I mean, they were paying attention, and they could see that the government case was just empty. So it's really important to infect the jury pool, as I say, with information so that they can make an informed decision and that justice can be served when people are prosecuted for offenses. And as I've kind of mentioned throughout the talk, the media loves to demonize people who pay attention, and they try to tell people about facts. They call you a conspiracy theorist and some kind of miscreant, and I don't stand for that. You should speak up and defend them whenever possible. And I encourage people to pray and to we need prayer. I think it was God that gave us the many blessings to give us the country that we have, and I'd like to keep it. I'm sure you would too. So let's try to do that. And I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you got through that with your freedom and you didn't have to spend any time in Club Fed, for crying out loud, because we know how they like to throw people in there for this kind of thing, huh?
Yes, absolutely, Dre.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that wonderful information with us. You're our last guest here for the Taxation is Theft Fest 2020.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been awesome. So many thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, guys. That is about going to wrap it up for us here at the first annual Taxation is Theft Fest. Come back in a few minutes and we will do a wrap-up panel with Mr. Berman and the rest of our hosts. Or maybe we'll do it now. I don't know. We'll find out together. Thank you, everyone. We had so many people helping us behind the scenes. I can't even name them all because they're doing so much work. They're too busy to talk to me and all the rest of the hosts here that Dan pulled into this catastrophe that he somehow managed to get together so very quickly.
That was thanks to all you guys for helping me put this together. You guys really did an amazing job.
It was fun. Thank you
for asking me to be a part of it.
It was exhausting. I know everybody's burned out. We went through a lot. We had some, a lot of us had some personal issues to take care of. It was tough, but thank you guys so much for really just sticking in there and making sure everything went down and worked out so well. So, so I kind of want to take a couple minutes to just, look back and talk about some of the stuff that we heard. There were so many amazing talks. Who were some of your favorite speakers?
Scott.
I was one of your favorite speakers.
Yep.
What did you talk about? I missed yours.
You watched? It was the comedy thing.
Oh, I only got to catch a few minutes of that.
What the hell was that?
Sorry, I don't know if she's ready or not, but she popped in, so I pulled her in.
She's in.
I hope you're ready. Sorry.
Yeah, you're in it now, Jess.
in deep. So we always seem to skip Dre on these questions and these tops, I've noticed. So I want to start with Dre tonight. Dre, what was you got to meet some of the prime guests, I feel like, watching some of your sessions. Like I was just I wish I could have seen them all. Unfortunately, being part of this event, being on our end, on the host end, you're so tuned into your track and keeping track of your schedule. Like you don't have chance to really get too sucked into some of these other talks going on. So Dre, what was some of your best moments?
So, while listening to the guys talk about ways to avoid income tax is really interesting. after a while, I can only listen to that song. You know what? Actually, Mikey Wong. Mikey was probably my favorite. He was hilarious. He was engaging and very informative stuff that we don't get to hear about because he was talking about Hong Kong, and as we all know, they've kind of shut that down as far as we're concerned. So we don't get to know what's going on over there. So we rely on folks like Mikey who are on the ground over there reporting for places like Being Libertarian to keep us informed. So that was a good fun talk for me. That was my favorite.
So we had a comment on YouTube that I think is accurate. It's going to take a week to go back and watch all of this. Yeah.
Right.
You have your new binge watching program.
There you go. 24 hours.
Yeah, there you go.
Are
Even
you
if
still watching?
If you
That's
like
what we
just
needed.
the blocks, you do your 1 hour blocks, then you are good for a while.
Oh, can we? I'm gonna call Netflix tomorrow and ask if we can submit this.
Do it.
Season 1.
Season 1. I love it. I love it. What about you, Kate? What would you enjoy the most this weekend?
I was very surprised that I was lined up with a lot of big. Well, of course, seeing Spike's face when we delivered the news to him that Amash had dropped out was classic. If you haven't got a chance to see that, you need to go back and see at least that. Vermin's little titty dance when he got on, that was fun. Robin Corner had a energetic, informative, and just an amazing presentation on the paradigm that we're all stuck in our politics. That was really important. I loved his energy. Today, I loved the grow session. That was a lot of fun. And then I mean, talking during nullification with John Jones, but getting to talk about love and acceptance and authenticity with Ashley Shade today was like icing on the top, of the cupcake. It was great. So it's just been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. What about you, Jess?
Well, first, I just want to give a shout out to Dan and the technical team and Kate for putting together an all-star cast of thousands to bring all this great content and to make it look good in the UI. I hope everyone who is streaming for whatever was able to enjoy the good quality programming that you guys put through. And logistics-wise, you guys are the bomb, definitely. It was really well done. I hope that you're setting the standards for how people will execute their libertarian thought sharing in the future.
Love it. What about you, Raptor? Of course, I'm going to call on you. You're muted. You're not paying attention.
No, I'm not paying attention. I'm about to let David Demarest have it.
Oh no.
Let DPD rest.
So while that last talk was going on, I made an offer in the delegates group.
I saw that.
Free hat to anybody who makes a motion to censure the entire party.
If I was in the meeting, I'd take you up on that, Dan.
Yeah. What are you doing out here? Go in the meeting.
Because I'll never get through. That's the reality of the situation. Now they've got delegates sitting in these rooms, and they got to communicate through their delegate chairs, and it's a hot mess, dude. I don't know how it's going to all play out.
I haven't even attempted to get on to see what kind of show is happening there.
Is it like maximum capacity or something?
No, they're just trying something new. Here we are, 5 days away. So
I was just about to ask Spike about what his thoughts were, and then you. Is Dre going back to see?
Mute Tab. That was not me.
Yeah,
that was Tab. Whoever that was. Raptor.
I'm like trying to figure everything out.
I was like, I know I didn't put up Spike.
I am trying to find this clip because now, I really want to see it.
Yeah.
There. Here, let me do it. Let me do a screen share.
Oh God.
All right, do it.
Yes. Is this the titty dance? What are we watching?
No, this is Spike's. Oh wait, hang on. Are you gonna have the? Let me see. Are you gonna have the sound?
It's gonna come through from you, dude.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, you guys heard it. All right, here we go. Back it up a little bit.
Thoughts were, and then you came in.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Twitter, dude, Justin Amash just announced that he is not running. He looked at it, he realized that he could not beat us, and he dropped his ass out. OMG! We are going all the way, buddy! Me and you into the White House!
Yeah. That's awesome.
Was Berman shirtless for that?
Of course.
Yeah, he was.
The whole time. That's for sure. Because right now, like my
He's wearing a tie with it too.
yeah,
He's wearing-
3 ties.
he's wearing a
It was 3
tie.
ties. No, it was 3 ties, and he came on screen. He didn't have his face or anything. It was his nipple. Was like,
Seems legit.
I want to rewind and show
you
that. But
just need to go back and watch that whole
Yes.
segment because it was so much fun. I cannot believe I was a part of that history.
Those two are always fun.
that's gonna
Oh,
be.
God.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. So this picture, when Vermin makes it to the White House, not that I'm making any predictions, that picture of you next to his nipple is going to be in the history book, right next to Trump's tweets.
Yeah, and me doing like the TiTFest dance with like a titty dance with them. Oh my god. Great. Oh my gosh. My grandkids are gonna see that.
Well, I mean, they're gonna see it somewhere.
What have you been searching, Dan?
I'm just saying. I mean, they're gonna see.
What do you know?
They're gonna see
What
it
do you know
eventually
is out
from
there?
someone. I don't know. Yeah. So, oh man, this. I mean, I really do. Like, I unfortunately didn't get to see Mikey's bit in Hong Kong, but I did hear so many amazing things from our speakers. So it was this really, man. Like, okay, because when I designed this, right, I was always complaining about how, like, I used to love to go to the libertarian conferences, but I always hated it because I couldn't actually get to see the talks. Like, I would always miss that. And like, this was like, I wanted to be like all those amazing talks that we never get to see, but while there's no party business going on. Now, of course, they had to ruin that by doing all these conference calls about hot dogs, but whether a hot dog is a taco or not. But what did you guys think? Like, yeah, rerun debates with people who aren't even candidates anymore. Yeah. What do you guys think? Do you think we kind of hit that goal of like hearing all this really awesome stuff that's not necessarily directly, you know, it's not debates, it's not pitches on particular candidates, but it's like really interesting different talks about things that are going to actually change us as people and help us to grow and educate us and take a new perspective out on libertarianism when we're out trying to change the world. Do you think we hit that goal?
I think so. I saw a lot of comment.
I do.
Yeah. So
I think we definitely did. I remember just as a spectator, a non-participant, looking at the announcements that were coming through, and every single topic was like, yes, I can think of 5 or 10 people who want to see this exact topic. And so I thought this speaking array was excellent, and I think that libertarians and non-libertarians, especially in this current climate, are curious about ways to subvert the state as we do every day.
In what better way? I'm always talking about striking at the root and starving the beast and stop paying your taxes, stop giving them all that money that they can misspend. And we had 3 amazing speakers talk about how you don't have to pay the income tax. How freaking awesome is that?
In the future, I would suggest that you have not Dre do the host for those, because that's probably her least favorite topic.
Yeah, but watch, I guarantee you, she's not gonna file taxes next year.
The hell I'm yeah, exactly. No, yeah, they were great, but yeah, maybe just spread out the love.
Well, it's okay.
Give somebody else a chance.
4 tracks. It's fine.
Yeah, we do need to have 4 tracks. Okay, so I want to leave a teaser, because we've been having these discussions and talking about, you know, what are we going to do with this next year? And we've had so many great ideas, right? Where we definitely, I mean, since the beginning, we wanted to do this. We wanted to make this an in-person thing. Amanda Parsons is saying James Weeks should come too. He could give us a dance class. Or, well, he's an ordained minister, and he's able to do marriages, so we could get his take on that whole thing. But like Kate's talk about contractual marriages, which was really interesting.
I didn't get to see that, but I am
Go
married.
back and watch it. It was really awesome.
I do not have a marriage license.
Thank you. Thank you. It was the first time I actually ever gave that talk. So obviously I got to go back and refine the delivery, but it's a topic that in conversation, I love to have, and almost everybody takes away with, oh my gosh, why haven't we thought of it this way?
Right.
And so it was fun.
I'm gonna make my wife watch that one because we're in that circumstance, but we don't even have a contract because I'm just like I don't even know where to start. Like there's not like you can't go to like LegalZoom and they don't have like
They don't.
Non-government marriage contract there. But like you did have a good point. Like you mentioned that you can find these online and build your own, and you mentioned a lot of really great ideas. So I'm sure like I'm gonna give that to my wife and she's gonna be watching it. She's gonna be like on Google for the next 6 months, like trying to come up with our contract. And I'm probably gonna have to hire a lawyer to read through it because I'm just totally gonna get screwed on that. But
no, I will reiterate, it has to be fair, consensual, with love and devotion.
Well, she's always very specific about what she wants, and I'm just always like, yeah, whatever you want, go for it. So I'll probably end up signing it, and she'll be like, well, it was consensual. We'll see. But yeah, so in the future, like we do want to do this in person. We want to make this an in-person event, and of course, I mean, this was 10. So one of the reasons this was 12 hours. Is because we realized if we start it at 10 o'clock a.m., that's 7 o'clock. So like we're covering at least 4 time zones. I don't know if anyone well, we're covering more than that because we saw people tuning in from Uganda and Australia. I was about to say Hawaii just because that's way out there, but it's US, but we're really international with this. But so that's why we did 12 hours and we tried to break it up with some entertainment and some comedy and some other things. So to give everyone a little break. But if we did this in person, it would probably be fewer hours, more days, more spaced out, because going to the conventions, what I've always found is really fun is sitting around and talking with people afterwards and exchanging more ideas and having those conversations and taking what we hear in the talks and building on them. And that to me is just so much fun.
Yeah, and also having the opportunity to be face-to-face with the speaker. You have his presentation or her presentation, and then afterward, have an opportunity, meet him at the bar, and have him expand and answer the questions that, you maybe had during his presentation. I love the in-person idea, and I really want that to happen. I hope you invite me to let that happen.
Yes. And of course, I've been talking about the Libertarian Cruise for like forever. And I feel like somebody did it one year. Maybe it was it Tom Woods? No. Somebody did one year, I think. And, but that was it. And I'm just like, yeah, that would be so fun. And we could still broadcast it from there, like by satellite or something. Cause we're libertarians. We don't care about borders, and like we'll figure out. We put this thing together with like all the tech falling apart and we made it happen. We can absolutely figure out a way to stream from a boat out in international waters where we're gambling and doing whatever.
Yeah, Dan, you had this concept. You brought this concept to me like less than 2 months ago, and it's grown from there. And I cannot believe, like, I am thrilled on how successful this festival was.
Absolutely. Didn't we, like, from the beginning of when we opened up yesterday, when people were sounding off where they were from, we had 2 different places in Africa, 1 or 2 places in the Middle East, I want to say, and then like all over the country.
Kenya, Uganda. I remember someone said Manila, I think.
I think Manila too. Wow.
We saw Iraq on the map when we were looking at who was registering.
That's awesome.
I mean,
yeah, this is how, like, there's that meme of the drone firing missiles. Here, have some freedom. Like, no, this is how you get freedom into the Middle East, is through taxation and theft fest. Like, we made it to Iraq, we made it to Pakistan. Like, and who knows how much that's going to spread. And like, we've been talking about turning taxation and theft into like an international organization that helps to spread freedom. And those 1 or 2 people in those countries that watched this, maybe we'll connect as we're building that, and maybe they'll start growing an entire liberty movement in those countries that gets people to understand, like, hey, if we can grow this idea of liberty here, we can get our governments to stop fighting each other and using us as collateral where we're the ones who get harmed when we don't want to fight each other. It's our governments that are, trying to steal resources and oil and everything else.
Where's Quintana?
Quintana.
Quintana Roo?
Hang on.
That's
Oh, that's Mexico.
Mexico.
That's where I'm
That's
sitting right
Dan.
now.
Apparently you were
Somebody's watching from Mexico.
You were 10% of our. So it wasn't just you then. There have to be some of your neighbors watching this.
Well, I did have like 50 tabs open trying to share everything.
Yeah, well, don't forget Hong Kong. We had it streaming in Hong Kong too.
Dude, we had 24% female audience. That's insane for anything libertarian.
Wow.
It's because you had me on here.
The silver fox beast.
The beard, man.
Were you,
Well,
were you inviting all your friends from Tinder?
Yeah.
What's that?
Update your Tinder profile. Hey, go check out Taxation and Stuff Fest. I'm live right now.
Trying to get another blip up there, are you?
I only understand about half of what you just said. I don't even know what's a Tinder.
It's a hookup app, Grandpa.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he's serious or he's like, I don't want my wife to hear.
He's serious.
No, it's part of my bit, Dan. I make reference to the interwebs, getting on the YouTubes. It's part of my bit. Yeah. So.
Pretending to be a boomer. Got it.
Right? Yeah.
It's basically the same thing.
Well, it's kind of like if you blend in with the rest of them, they'll leave you alone, and then you can do what you want, right?
That's right. Hey, what are the odds that you'd find somebody to interview Josh Dial that hadn't seen a single minute of Tiger King? What are the odds that happened?
Actually amazing.
When I think it's like the extra episode of Tiger King, and like in the very beginning they interview it was one of the guys who was in the show, and he, like, the first thing he said was like, they were asking him like, what did you think about the show when it was released? And he's like, oh man, I still haven't seen it yet.
He said he wasn't ever going to see it. Yeah, he said he refused to see it. He wasn't going to see it, and that was the manager. Yeah, that was the zoo manager.
The long hair.
That's
guy.
me. I'm that guy. When the minute it went hot, I was like, I am staying as far away from that as I possibly can.
It's entertaining. Just do it.
I'm the first to let people enjoy their things. Like, I'm not bashing it. By all means, if you enjoyed it and you watched it, great for you. I watch things and enjoy things that you probably aren't into. The new Star Wars Clone Wars series is amazing, But what are the odds, though, that you would put me up on the screen with the guy and he's talking about it, and I'm like, I just don't even know anything about what you're talking about right now. So it was kind of cool.
I mean,
Oh, boy.
If you already saw all of it, then he'd be telling you a story you already heard. So,
right.
What did
No,
Josh
I think
cover?
we focus mostly on
a couple seconds.
We focus mostly on the libertarian aspect, like being a libertarian and what that means and what the philosophy looks like and what his involvement with the party looks like. And it was like a Joe's not a real libertarian, so don't get him tattooed on your ass kind of perspective. So
that's the part I caught.
Can I get this thing removed?
Right? Too late. I mean, you can get it covered. It's probably easier to get it covered than it is removed, Dan.
A lot less painful.
Oh my God! Just because you said that, there is actually a really bad tattoo cover-up in that show that went viral after. So the fact that he said that and hadn't seen the show and said it cover-up is that's perfect.
Wait! In the Tiger King show?
In the after show.
So the guy that like is getting interviewed, that was one of his husbands that was shirtless the whole time and toothless. So he goes and gets a cover-up tattoo because he gets Joe something across his stomach or whatever. But he gets real defensive because in the 8th episode, when they do the Film from Home Where Are They Now kind of episode, he's like, they didn't show the finished product. It actually covered the whole thing, and it's a really good tattoo, and they don't show it.
Oh, what are the odds?
I missed that part.
It's the one with Joel McHale. It's the very, very last one. That's like after the series came out.
Yeah, I think I saw like we started watching like the first 5 minutes, and then Netflix was like, "Are you still there?" And I'm like, "No, I'm going to sleep." It was so like after I had already watched this. I'm trying to think what. I think my wife drove up to Cancun like for the week that I was watching that, so I watched it without her, and then she came back, and I was just like, "Oh, there's this new show. Do you want to watch it?" And so we watched it, and I watched it again, and like, but the second time, the first time I watched it, that final episode wasn't there, so, but I still haven't watched it, so I saw like the first 5 minutes of it.
Hey, so some numbers or percentages really. So I can't look at just today. So I'm looking at the last 7 days of your channel, and it's gonna mostly be what we've done the last 2 days, right? So on YouTube, it's actually 33% female. So that's amazing for YouTube. If you're not doing like a family channel or like a health and beauty channel, that's really good.
Okay. And
the age range is 50% 18 to 24, and then 25% 25 to 34, 21% 35 to 44, and then like 0.6% bigger.
So there was this I gotta share this just because I put this on like the TiTFest live page.
Mm-hmm.
This is like one of the big rave companies that I think they started out in LA, but they're like in Vegas and a few other places now. They are also having this weekend. They started Friday night. It's because usually the festival in person is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're doing a virtual one right now at the same time as TiTFest. So like they're live streaming this. This is like freaking amazing. And it's going to go until 2:00 in the morning. So if you're into this kind of music, go check it out. It's EDC. I just saw that when I tuned back into YouTube. So like,
thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It was a lot of work.
A lot of. So for our country breakdown, in the last week, you've had 60 hits from the United Kingdom. We had Canada, Germany, Australia, Hong Kong, and Sweden all watching. I'm guessing a lot of the Middle Eastern people we had watching were probably VPNing the shit out of their connection.
Yeah.
Are you looking on my channel or your channel?
Your channel. You gave me access. I'm all for your business.
Oh, that's right. I'm like, how are you seeing this? I don't even know where to find. I know I can look per video. Oh wait, no, here we go. Yeah, now I'm gonna be trapped in here, fascinated for like the next. Wow. Okay.
The analytics stream is like, it'll take you places.
Wow. Yeah, and I can see the peak that came up over the last couple days. That's awesome.
And we've lost Dan now.
We've
lost Dan?
insights.
We've
No, I
lost
mean,
Dan
you're
because
there, really.
he is.
Oh.
The insights got him. He's lost.
Yeah, I'm lost in like math land over here.
It's funny.
I forgot. I'm on a show right now.
Yeah, we're live on the internet, man.
Internet. What's that?
The interwebs.
There's like really weird shit that was going on too, because Chrissy was doing her show and she dropped out, and we're using StreamYard, and she tried to go back to the page, and it's like it's giving her a 404, which is weird because like she's like, I think it's my computer, and I'm like, no, that's like a 404 comes all the way from the server, and she's like, maybe it's my internet, and I'm like, no, you're still on the internet. That's coming from their server. So like, I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I figure since this is like a big streaming service, they probably have like different servers all over the country. And like the one that's closest to her that she was connecting to probably had an outage or something.
No, Monsanto shut her down because he was talking shit.
Yeah, or that was our
we're sticking with that because that was our theory with Spike,
Yeah,
So,
but then we started
NSA.
talking about Monsanto on the other channel.
Yeah, when we started, so our comedy part was up over 20 viewers most of the time, but the minute made a joke about Monsanto, it went down to 8.
Yep.
Holy crap!
Most
So
of
many
those were-
people's servers went out.
Those were actually because we are accidentally streaming to Drunken Disorderly at the same time, right?
Well,
I wasn't.
I was on Facebook, and as I was watching the live stream, there were subtitles. The auto-generated subtitles were coming up, and they were pretty accurate. But that's how fast that's working now. So like they're and like, you know, they can scrape that a lot faster than they can scrape audio. So if they have that translation, they can be like, oh, Monsanto, what are these guys talking about? Let me get this. My FBI guy was probably like all over that within seconds.
Go ahead.
You have to have multiple FBI like agents because you never sleep and you have so many damn projects. Like they have to like tag you're it. Like who made the pot of coffee?
They're sorting
You probably got a whole house full that are all like roommates and they have to switch out after a couple of months.
They probably hate Dan too. They're constantly cursing. Your turn to watch the fucking asshole. He's up to some bullshit today. God, I'm going to sleep.
Okay, this is really going to piss him off. There is all kinds of encrypted leaked data inside of TiTFest. That's why we were streaming for so many hours, because I met up with WikiLeaks. They gave me this tremendous amount of information, which is now all over the world because it's embedded in hidden information inside of these videos. And so now my FBI guys are going to be spending the next 6 months trying to find
You have no idea how badly I wanted to kick you out of the studio in the middle of that just to make people laugh.
You should have done it.
My finger was on the button too, Zach.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Talk about missed opportunities.
Yeah, and then when I come back, I'll start talking like a robot. So they think I'm
right. Oh, that's already started. So.
Okay, I'll start talking like a real person.
So I desperately want to figure out what's wrong with what was wrong with the voice meter, so that I can start using it for things and have it not make me sound like Darth Vader without like the really cool echo effects.
Are you going through it right now?
No.
Oh, because yeah, you sound well. But I'm still hearing a little bit of popping, which I started hearing in my other channel. So that popping, I don't even think was you.
I think voice meter pops. I don't think it's I think we might need to find a potentially other program that does roughly the same thing. Maybe
maybe a compressor.
We've been talking about this since Friday night, since probably like Tuesday, probably for like 2 weeks. We need to like, when we're done with this, make a new program that like does everything we need it to do. Because yeah, there was like, we really had to kind of hack this thing together. And you know, a lot of people were recommending OBS. That was kind of my go-to because that's what I use for my podcast. And but like at the same time, we would have had so many more issues trying to connect our guests into the stream because StreamYard makes it really easy. And when we have this many guests, switching around with OBS would have been really, really problematic. So
I don't like, someone needs to hold my hand in OBS because I have never been able to figure it out.
Yeah, and I mean, like what StreamYard has is like, it is really amazing. They did make it really simple and it is really powerful, but it's
this project was beyond what it's meant for.
Yeah. We could have done so much more with just a couple really simple features.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, I downloaded yesterday's streams and it was like 18 gigs for the day.
Wow.
So now I have to download today's, and then Zach, you have to you have to download yours and email them to me.
Download what? I'm sorry, I just zoned out.
Oh Jesus!
I'm so tired.
The streams, man.
Oh,
don't cross the streams.
How can you get into my StreamYard at this point to download them?
I could. Oh man.
So Dan, you got to see everybody almost. What was your favorite part?
Me? Oh man. So I really liked Robin Corner. He made some really interesting points. I got to hear a little bit of what Arvin was saying. I always like listening to Arvin, and like it's interesting because like getting to hear him talk more about education specifically, other than like, the general, because like I'm in so many debates with him, and like he says a lot of the same things, and it's like, not him. It's the same with all of us, right? Like you're in those debates over and over again. We get asked the same questions, and it's like, yeah, we get bored of it sometimes. So it's really awesome for like a change of pace to hear him talk about what he actually really specializes in. There's
Well, I hope you invite him onto the podcast soon, because I know he had a lot more information and he just ran out of time. I'd love to hear it because, as a mom with a 5 and 7-year-old, I'm already thinking about their future, and what he has to offer is something I definitely want to hear that pitch. So
yeah,
I got to see a little bit of it, but he didn't get a lot of his content out there. So I know he's got a lot more to share.
And that's a really like interesting point about, if we did this as an in-person event too, like we wouldn't be restricted to just, we had what, over 40 speakers, like I think maybe close to 50, especially if you include our us, and 24 hours basically to do it. If we did this as an in-person event, we would have more time and more space where we could have people speaking for 3 or 4 hours on a particular topic, because ultimately, exactly, like some people are going to be really into the taxes and they're going to be like, yeah, teach me everything you know. Like I'll sit here all day and listen to it. We could have workshops, especially with like the parenting, the parenting talks, where they could actually pull out curriculums and like go through some of them, and like, we talked about, for this one, we talked about doing a workshop, but the tech was just like too overwhelming where it wasn't going to happen. But like to talk about, problem solving, and then maybe break up into groups and have people work together. You could do that with an in-person event, where it's like, it's more interactive, and it's like you get to actually create something almost like these hackathons that like a lot of places have. Like you go to an event and it's a weekend long event, and you break up into teams, and you kind of come up with like something that you're all going to sit around and plan together as a hackathon. Like that would be amazing, because, and this is why I think that's really important, because you have libertarians are usually just sitting around like, grumpy as shit, saying like, yeah, I hate this about the government, I hate that about the government. But we're never going to, like, the reason the government is there is because people want it to be there to solve those problems for them. And we're never going to be able to take that away from them. They're never going to let us take it away from them until there's something else that they can go to that's going to solve those problems. So if we can say, okay, look, let's have a hackathon. Let's talk about their problems, even though like that's not our job and we have no obligation. Let's talk about solving some of the world's problems so that everybody else doesn't depend on government, and they'll let us take it away and get rid of it. And we might be creating, like, we're always talking about like, oh, this could be taken care of by the private market, right? By a private business. So let's talk about actually creating those private businesses and creating competition for the government. And of course, we know they're going to say, well, it's not allowed to compete with the government, but we can at least start talking about it and making plans. And we can at least start saying, hey, look, we're trying to do this without the government, but the government won't let us, and bring that to people's attention so that people are upset enough to say, hey, these guys are offering a better service than the government, but the government's basically telling us we can't buy it. And like, I think that would be just an amazing, like, libertarian hackathon that we could add to this event.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of the speakers had way more than an hour of information that they wanted to give to us. And I think that an in-person convention where they give their speech and then they maybe do a breakout session and it's a smaller group of people who have questions and they want to interact, that would be so useful and so helpful to people. And I think that they would love that. Yeah.
I mean, Nick Reed even, he sent me, he's like, well, what do you want me to talk about? And I was like, I don't know. Like, do you have like a presentation that you usually like to give? And he says, yeah, I have 3. So he sent me 3 and asked me to pick. And I'm like, holy shit, man. They all look really awesome. So I told him, look, why don't you pick? So he picked the one that he gave today, which I thought was like really amazing. And yeah, there are those other 2 talks that maybe if he had more time. And, like I said, this is something I want to continue to do. If we can turn this into something that's an actual in-person event that we do every year, maybe even twice a year, maybe once a year on a cruise ship off the coast of Florida somewhere, and maybe the second one of the year is somewhere in Europe or Asia or something, to start getting more international with this and making it in person for other places as well. And like, I want to say probably one of the things that really got me excited about doing stuff like this was a couple of years ago when I went to Uganda and I actually got to speak for it was basically like a libertarian gathering. There were a few guys talking about liberty. Dr. Kyle Varner was there, who totally by accident, I was in Salt Lake City with him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, so I hear you're going to Uganda," and I was like, people know about this? And I was just totally like, I met these guys. They said they were libertarian. I knew a little bit about them, but I was like, I really don't know much about them. I don't know if this is a huge scam or what. Like, I didn't know, but I was like, I'm going on a fucking adventure. And then I ran into Kyle, and he's like, yeah, I'm going too. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then we went out there, and there were a couple other speakers who joined us, and there were students there from all over Africa, from Kenya, from Congo, from Tanzania. Like, it was amazing. And those guys are all like, I see them on Facebook all the time cheering for the presidential campaign, which I'm like, that's amazing also. But like, these guys really inspired me to say like, hey, look, this really has potential to be a big international thing.
Well, I just hope I get invited.
You're all well, of course, you guys are all going to be working it.
Hell yeah. Well,
it'll be more fun, and hopefully everyone will be getting paid at that point. I just want to point that out too. Like, everybody who's been a part of this has been a huge help, because nobody's gotten paid for this. And actually, even the speakers, and I know like a lot of people were like, hey, this guy was just trying to sell me a book. Go buy the book, because they all came here to share this information with us for free. And I did that on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose for them. I did it on purpose for you, because I wanted you guys to really learn this information and see all the stuff that's out there. But for them, just asking them to be a part of this, they were like, yeah, I'll absolutely do this. And I think that's really amazing that they were willing to do that. So please support them, by looking into their programs, buying their books, find out what they're doing. Some of them are working on organizations, and they just want to do that. There's Justin Armand, who's not Justin Amash. Somebody thought they saw Justin Amash on the schedule. Justin Armand, actually, he wasn't even talking about this, but he has this amazing parenting philosophy that I wanted him to share. But he's actually an entrepreneur that created this thing called Magic Mud, which is basically like a black toothpaste made out of like all natural ingredients. And like I remember when they started this, they had these funny commercials about like, because it used to, now it's like an actual paste, but before that it was like a powder, and it was just so funny the way they marketed it. But they've turned it into an amazing brand. And go look at that, and go look at that product, because that's not what he was talking about. But that is supporting him, and that is helping him to go around and share this information everywhere else too. So definitely like this, and thank you guys so much for volunteering your time and really being a part of this, because I know it's absolutely exhausting. I'm tired. I know you guys are tired. But thank you so much. This has really been amazing.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity. I know for me, I know that this is probably the first big project I've had an opportunity to work on in the Liberty movement, and it has been so much fun. I learned a lot, and thank you.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan. So yes, we had one last question from Phil. I'm going to say Filth Pig. If we do this in person, would we also live stream it?
Absolutely. Because like I said, I think the most important part of all this is the knowledge and information. Like, if we can all grow and learn from this and take this into our personal lives, like, you might not start a big international organization, you might not start a new business, but if you can, like, whatever it is, if you take any of this learning and apply it in your life, if you teach your kids, if you raise your kids a certain way, based on anything you learn, and they grow up to be better people, and they go out and solve world's problems, or they're nicer and they spread, just they spread libertarian philosophy because they understand it, because they were raised by it. There's just so many different ways that I think this impacts all of us. So ultimately, that is the goal, is to get this information out to everybody, so that we can all kind of become smarter about our own lives, understand what it is that we are as people, and become better people. Because ultimately, this is another great one. This totally blew my mind. And I'll try to relate it to what I was just talking about, so I'm not like totally going on a tangent. But Sam Robb this morning gave an amazing talk. It was our Sunday morning church session, and he was giving this amazing talk about how to treat your neighbor the way you would want to be treated. And like these types of stories, I'm not religious, I'm certainly not Christian, and for him to be able to tell that story and the point of it in such a way that it related to government and how we expect government to treat us, how it relates to other people in our community, and how we have it, how it relates to the Libertarian Party members having this conversation about, I'm more libertarian than you. It was just so amazing how he related it to like all this crap that's going on in the party, where if we could set all that stuff aside, we could do some really amazing things. But like we're so often fixated on fighting with each other, or fighting with the people who have opposing views from us, instead of trying to say, hey, we want to make your life better, and we have a solution that we want to propose, but instead the tendency is to go fight with them. I think we could do so much better just by like all of this information combined, and some of the speakers like Nick and Robin, who were talking about like all these different ways about arguments, and how to really connect with people in a way to share your information that they're going to understand it, instead of trying to just like, this is my opinion, you better believe it, or I'm going to be really mad at you and we're never going to be friends. Like to really make that connection and share that information. I think like all of these are just all really powerful tools for all of us to have.
Absolutely, Dan. Like, one of the things that we lose sight of too often in the game, and I hate to think of it as politics as a game, because what we do is serious business. What we do is highly necessary, and the problem is we can't make people love liberty. All we can do is educate them about what liberty looks like, and hope that they follow. That's all we can do. So the more that we're able to put that information out there and put it in front of the public eye, the more people are going to go, okay, maybe you're onto something here. And I think we're seeing it more and more. We're seeing a general shift. I know in my lifetime I've seen a great shift in the libertarian movement and the eye on liberty, because it really is all about moving that needle, moving the needle more. I mean, it took us 250 years to get to where we're at now in this government encroachment. It's going to take us some time to get it back. And every time we put a new speaker out there that teaches somebody how to manipulate, how to survive interaction with the federal government, is never a wasted opportunity. So I appreciate what you did in this vision and putting this all together, man, and pulling a really strong team, a strong and impressive team of individuals put together to make this thing all fire on all cylinders. Not one of us could have done it on our own.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have done this without you guys. So again, thank you guys.
Zach thinks he could have. Zach thinks he could have done it all on his own.
Yeah, he was piddling down his leg earlier when the sound wasn't working. It's fine.
Next time we'll just sit back and watch and let Zach do all the work then.
I agree.
Hey, on my back.
Like the 20 different schedule and host changes within 24 hours of going live. Dear Lord.
Oh, yeah.
What a nightmare.
I want to go to bed. Can we stop now? If not, I'm leaving.
All right. So it's time for Zach to go to bed. So we are going to thank everybody for tuning in so much to the Zach show. Where to the keep Zach awake as long as we possibly can show. No, seriously, thank you everybody so much for tuning in and watching. This really has been amazing. I hope everybody enjoyed. Continue to share the streams all throughout the next 6 months, year, whatever. Share it everywhere. We're going to repost all the videos too. We're going to edit them up, make them a little bit easier to get through when it's not all mashed together in a live thing, so that it's, you know, you can share it with your friends. So we're going to be uploading that probably throughout the next couple of weeks. Who knows? We might space it out over the next 6 months, because we created so much content this weekend.
Put it out all at once.
Yeah, definitely not all at once. But thank you guys again so much. I really can't thank you enough. Thank you, everybody on the team, everybody who's not even in this call on the team. We even have more people behind the scenes.
Yes,
too many to name. Thank you all so much. This has really been amazing. And we'll see you at the next TiTFest.